Start this morning session with recitation of Sri Brahma Samhita. So it's there up on the board, and we can all take turns, maybe 4 verses each person, so we can keep a good pace. So I'll start with this first verse. Krishna, who is known as Govinda, is a supreme Godhead. He has an eternal blissful spiritual body. He is the origin of all. He has no other origin, and he is the prime cause of all causes. The spiritual place of transcendental pastimes of Krishna is portrayed in the second verse. The super excellent station of Krishna, which is known as Gokula, has thousands of petals and a corolla like that of a lotus sprouted from a part of his infinitary aspect, the whole of the leaves being the actual abode of Krishna. The whole of that transcendental lotus is a realm wherein dwells Krishna. It is a hexagonal figure, the abode of the indwelling, predominated and predominating aspect of the Absolute. Like a diamond, the central supporting figure of self-luminous Krishna stands as a transcendental source of all potencies. The holy name, consisting of 18 transcendental letters, is manifested in a hexagonal figure with 6-fold divisions. The world of that eternal realm, Gokula, is the hexagonal abode of Krishna. Its petals are the abodes of gopis, who are part and parcel of Krishna, to whom they are most lovingly devoted and are similar in essence. The petals shine beautifully like so many walls. The extended leaves of that lotus are the garden-like dham, that is spiritual abode of Sri Radhika, the most beloved of Krishna.
The surrounding external plane of Gokul is described in this verse. There is a mysterious quadrangular place named Svetadvip surrounding the outskirts of Gokul. Svetadvip is divided into 4 parts on all sides. The abode of Vasudeva, Sankarshan, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha are separately located in each of these 4 parts. These 4 divided abodes are enveloped by the fourfold human requirements such as piety, wealth, passion, and liberation, as also by the 4 Vedas, namely Rig, Sam, Yajur, and Atharva, which deals with the mantra and which are the basis of the achievements of the fourfold mundane requirements. 10 tridents are fixed in the 10 directions, including the Janith and Nadir. The eight directions are decorated with the 8 jewels of Mahapadma, Padma, Sankha, Makara, Kachapa, Mukunda, Kunda, and Nila. There are 10 protector Dikpalas of the 10 directions in the form of mantra. The associates of the hues of blue, yellow, red, and white, and the extraordinary potencies bearing the names of Vimal, etc., shines on all sides. The Lord of the Gokul is the transcendental supreme Godhead, the own self of eternal ecstasis. He is the superior of all superiors and is busily engaged in enjoyments of the transcendental realm and has no association with his mundane potency. Krishna never consorts with his illusory energy, still her connection is not entirely cut off from the absolute truth. When he intends to create the material world, the amorous pastime in which he engages by consorting with his own spiritual chit potency Rama by casting his glance at the deluding energy in the shape of sending his time energy is an auxiliary activity.
Actually, that chit potency is Rama.
Oh, Rama. 5.8. The secondary process of association with Maya is described. Rama Devi, the spiritual chit potency, beloved consort of the Supreme Lord, is the regulatrix of all entities. The divine plenary portion of Krishna creates this mundane world. At creation, there appears a divine halo of the nature of his own subjective portion, Swams. This halo is divine Sambhu, the masculine symbol or manifested emblem of the Supreme Lord. This halo is the dim twilight reflection of the supreme eternal effulgence. This masculine symbol is the subjective portion of the divinity who functions as progenitor of the mundane world, subject to the supreme regulatrix Niyati. The conceiving potency in regard to mundane creation makes her appearance out of the supreme regulatrix. She is Maya, the limited, non-absolute apara potency, the symbol of mundane feminine productivity. The intercourse of these two brings forth the faculty of perverted cognition, the reflection of the seed of the procreative desire of the Supreme Lord.
You can read the next 4 verses.
All offsprings of the consort of the great Lord Maheshwar of this mundane world are of the nature of the embodiment of the mundane masculine and feminine generative organs. The person embodying the material causal principle, that is, the great Lord of this mundane world, Maheshwar, Shambhu, in the form of male generating organ, is joined to his female consort, the limited energy Maya, as the efficient causal principle. The Lord of the world, Mahavishnu, is manifest in him by his subjective portion in the form of his glance. The Lord of the mundane world, Mahavishnu, possesses thousands of heads, eyes, hands. He is the source of thousands of avatars in his thousands of subjective portions. He is the creator of thousands of individual souls. The same Mahavishnu is spoken of by the name of Narayan in this mundane world. From that eternal person has sprung the vast expanse of water of the spiritual causal ocean. The subjective portion of Sankarshan, who abides in Paravyom, the above Supreme Purush with thousands of subjective portions, reposes in the state of divine sleep, Yoga Nidra, in the waters of spiritual causal ocean.
5.13. The spiritual seeds of Sankarsana existing in the pores of skin of Mahavishnu are born as so many golden sperms. These sperms are covered with 5 great elements. The same Mahavishnu entered into each universe as his own separate subjective portions. The divine portions that entered into each universe are possessed of his majestic extension, that is, they are the eternal universe soul Mahavishnu, possessing thousands of heads. The same Mahavishnu created Vishnu from his left limb, Brahma, the first progenitor of beings, from his right limb, and from the space between his 2 eyebrows, Sambhu, the divine masculine manifested hollow. The function of Sambhu in relation to Jivas is that this universe enshrining the mundane egoistic principle has originated from Sambhu.
Thereupon the same great personal Godhead, assuming the threefold forms of Vishnu, Prajapati and Sambhu, entering into the mundane universe, plays the pastimes of preservation, creation and destruction of this world. This pastime is contained in the mundane world. Hence, it being perverted, the Supreme Lord, identical with Mahavishnu, prefers to consort with the goddess Yoga Nidra, the constituent of his own spiritual chit potency, full of the ecstatic trance of eternal bliss appertaining to his own divine personality. When Vishnu, lying in the ocean of milk, wills to create this universe, a golden lotus springs from his navel pit. The golden lotus with its stem is the abode of Brahma, representing Brahmaloka or Satyaloka. Before their conglomeration, the primary elements in their nascent state remained originally separate entities. Non-application of the conglomerating process is the cause of their separate existence. Divine Mahavishnu, primal Godhead, through association with his own spiritual chit potency, moved Maya, and by the application of the conglomerating principle created those different entities in their state of cooperation. And after that he himself consorted with Yoga Nidra by way of his eternal dalliance with his spiritual chit potency. By conglomerating all those separate entities, he manifested the innumerable mundane universes and himself entered into the inmost recess of every extended conglomerate, Virad Viragya, Virad Vigraha. At that time, those jivas who had lain dormant during the cataclysm were awakened.
The same jiva is eternal and is for eternity and without a beginning, joined to the Supreme Lord by the tie of an eternal kinship. He is transcendental spiritual potency. The divine lotus which springs from the navel pit of Vishnu is in every way related by the spiritual tie with all souls and is the origin of four-faced Brahma versed in the four Vedas. On coming out of the lotus, Brahma, being guided by the divine potency, turned his mind to the act of creation under the impulse of previous impressions, but he could see nothing but darkness in every direction. Then the goddess of learning Saraswati, the divine consort of the Supreme Lord, said thus to Brahma, who saw nothing but gloom in all directions, O Brahma, this mantra, Klim Krishnaya Govindaya Gopijana Vallabhaya Swaha, will assuredly fulfill your heart's desire. O Brahma, do thou practice spiritual association by means of this mantra, then all your desires will be fulfilled.
Brahma, being desirous of satisfying Govinda, practiced the cultural acts for Krishna in Goloka, Lord of Shvetadvip, for a long time. His meditation ran thus: there exists a divine lotus of 1,000 petals, augmented by millions of filaments, in the transcendental land of Gokula, in the transcendental land of Goloka. On its wall, there exists a great divine throne on which is seated Sri Krishna, the form of eternal effulgence of transcendental bliss, playing on his divine flute, resonant with the divine sound, with his lotus mouth. He is worshipped by his amorous milkmaids with their respective subjective portions and extensions, and also by his external energy, who stays outside, embodying all mundane qualities. Then Gayatri, mother of the Vedas, being made manifest, that is imparted by the divine sound of the flute of Sri Krishna, entered into the lotus mouth of Brahma, born from himself through his 8 ear holes. The lotus-born Brahma, having received the Gayatri, sprung from the flute song of Sri Krishna, attained the status of the twice-born, having been initiated by the supreme primal preceptor, Godhead himself. Enlightened by the recollection of that Gayatri, embodying the 3 Vedas, Brahma became acquainted with the expanse of the ocean of truth. Then he worshipped Sri Krishna, the essence of all Vedas, with this hymn.
I worship Govinda, the first progenitor who is tending the cows, yielding all desire, in a abode built with spiritual gems, surrounded by millions of purpose trees, always served with great reverence and affection by hundreds of thousands of Lakshmis or Gopis. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who is adept in playing on his flute, with blooming eyes like lotus petals, with head decked with peacock's feather, with a figure of beauty tinged with the hue of blue clouds, and his unique loveliness charming millions of cupids. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, round whose neck is swinging a garland of flowers beautified with the moon locket, whose 2 hands are adorned with the flute and jeweled ornaments, who always reveals in pastime of love, whose graceful threefold bending form of Shyam Sundar is eternally manifest. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, whose transcendental form is full of bliss, truth, substantiality, and thus full of the most dazzling splendor. Each of the limbs of their transcendental figure possesses in himself the full-fleshed functions of all the organs, and eternally sees, maintains, and manifests the infinite universes, both spiritual and mundane.
I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who is inaccessible to the Vedas, but obtainable by pure unalloyed devotion of the soul, who is without a second, who is not subject to decay, is without a beginning, whose form is endless, who is the beginning and the eternal Purusha, yet he is a person possessing the beauty of blooming youth. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, only the tip of the toe of whose lotus feet is approached by the yogis who aspire after the transcendental and betake themselves to pranayam by drilling the respiration, or by the jnanis who try to find out the non-differentiated Brahman by the process of elimination of the mundane, extending over thousands or millions of years. He is an undifferentiated entity, as there is no distinction between potency and the possessor thereof. In his work of creation of millions of worlds, his potency remains inseparable. All the universes exist in him, and he is present in his fullness in every one of the atoms that are scattered throughout the universe at one and the same time. Such is the primeval Lord whom I adore. I adore the same Govinda, the primeval Lord, in whose praise men who are imbued with devotion sing the mantra suktas told by the Vedas, by gaining their appropriate beauty, greatness, thrones, conveyances and ornaments.
I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, residing in his own realm, Goloka, with Radha resembling his own spiritual figure, the embodiment of the ecstatic potency possessed of the 64 artistic activities, in the company of her confidants, Sakhis, embodiments of the extension of her bodily form, permitted and vitalized by his ever blissful spiritual rasa. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who is Swayam Sundara, Krishna himself, with inconceivable, innumerable attributes, whom the pure devotees see in their heart of hearts with the eye of devotion tinged with the salve of love. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who manifested himself personally as Krishna and the different avatars in the world in the forms of Rama, Narasimha, Vamana, etc., as his subjective persons. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, whose effulgence is the source of the non-differentiated Brahman mentioned in the Upanishads, being differentiated from the infinity of glories of the mundane universe, appears as indivisible, infinite, limitless truth.
I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who is the absolute substantive principle, being the ultimate entity in the form of the support of all existence, whose external potency embodies the threefold mundane qualities, sattva, rajas, and tamas, and diffuses the Vedic knowledge regarding the mundane world. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, whose glory ever triumphantly dominates the mundane world by the activity of his own transcendental entity of ever blissful cognitive rasa. Lowest of all is located Devi Dham, mundane world. Next above is the Mahesh Dham, abode of Mahesh. Above Mahesh Dham is placed Hari Dham, abode of Hari, and above them all is located Krishna's own realm named Goloka. I adore the primeval Lord Govinda, who has allotted their respective authorities to the rulers of those graded realms. The external potency Maya, who is of the nature of the shadow of the Chit potency, is worshipped by all people as Durga, the creating, preserving, and destroying agency of this mundane world. I adore the primeval Lord Govinda in accordance with whose will Durga conducts herself.
Ramananda Prabhu.
Okay. Just as milk is transformed into curd by the action of acids, but yet the effect curd is neither same as nor different from its caused, namely milk. So I adore the primeval Lord Govinda, of whom the state of Shambhu is a transformation for the performance of the work of destruction. The light of one candle being communicated to other candles, although it burns separately in them, is the same in its quality. I adore the primeval Lord Govinda, who exhibits himself equally in the same mobile manner in his various manifestations. I adore the primeval Lord Govinda, who, assuming his own great subjective form, who bears the name of Sesha, replete with all accommodating potency, and reposing in the causal ocean with the infinity of the world in the pores of his hair, enjoys creative sleep, Yoga Nidra. Brahma and other lords of the mundane worlds, appearing from the pores of hair of Mahavishnu, remain alive as long as the duration of one exhalation of the latter, Mahavishnu. I adore the primeval Lord Govinda, whose subjective personality Mahavishnu is the portion of portion. I adore the primeval Lord Govinda, from whom the separated subjective portion Brahma receives his power for the regulation of the mundane world, just as the sun manifests some portion of his own light in all effulgent gems that bear the names of Suryakanta, etc. I adore the primeval Lord Govinda, whose lotus feet are always held by Ganesha upon the pair of tumuli protruding from his elephant head, in order to obtain power for his function of destroying all obstacles on the path of progress of the three worlds.
The three worlds are composed of the 9 elements, namely fire, earth, ether, water, air, direction, time, soul, and mind. I adore the primeval Lord Govinda, from whom they originate, in whom they exist, and into whom they enter at the time of the universal cataclysm. The sun, who is the king of all the planets, full of infinite effulgence, the image of the good soul, is as the eye of this world. I adore the primeval Lord Govinda, in pursuance of whose order the sun performs his journey, mounting the wheel of time. I adore the primeval Lord Govinda, by whose conferred power are maintained the manifested potencies that are found to exist of all virtues, all vices, the Vedas, the penances, and all jivas from Brahma to the meanest insect. I adore the primeval Lord Govinda, who burns up to their roots all fruitive activities of those who are imbued with devotion, and impartially ordains for each the due enjoyment of the fruits of one's activities. Of all those who walk in the path of work, in accordance with the chain of their previously performed works, no less in the case of their tiny insect that bears the name of Indragopa than in that of Indra, the king of the Devas.
I adore the primeval Lord Govinda, the meditators of whom, by meditating upon him under the sway of wrath, amorous passion, natural friendly love, fear, parental affection, delusion, reverence, and willing service, attain to bodily form befitting the nature of their contemplation. I worship that transcendental seat known as Svetadvip, where, as loving consorts, the Lakshmis in their unalloyed spiritual essence practice the amorous service of the Supreme Lord Krishna as their only lover, where every tree is a transcendental purpose tree, where the soil is the purpose gem, all water is nectar, every word is a song, every gate is a dance. The flute is the favorite attendant, effulgence is full of transcendental bliss, and the supreme spiritual entities are all enjoyable and tasty, where numberless milk cows always emit transcendental ocean of milk, where there is eternal existence of transcendental time, who is ever present and without past or future, and hence is not subject to the quality of passing away even for the space of half a moment. That realm is known as Golok only to a very few self-realized souls in the world. On hearing these hymns containing the essence of the truth, the Supreme Lord Krishna said to Brahma, Brahma, if you experience the inclination to create offspring, by being endowed with the real knowledge of the glory of Godhead, listen, my beloved, from me to this science set forth in the following 5 slokas. When the pure spiritual experience is excited by means of cognition and service, bhakti, super excellent unalloyed devotion, characterized by love for Godhead, is awakened toward Krishna, the beloved of all souls.
The highest devotion is attained by slow degrees, by the method of constant endeavor for self-realization, with the help of scriptural evidence, theistic conduct, and perseverance in practice. These preliminary practices of devotion, sadhana bhakti, are conducive to the realization of loving devotion. Loving devotion, than whom there is no superior well-being, who goes hand in hand with the attainment of the exclusive state of supreme bliss, and who can lead to myself. Abandoning all meritorious performances, serve me with faith. The realization will correspond to the nature of one's faith. The people of the world act ceaselessly in pursuance of some ideal. By meditating on me, by means of those deeds, one will obtain devotion characterized by love in shape of supreme service. Next one. Listen, O Vidhi, I am the seed, the fundamental principle of this world of animate and inanimate objects. I am Pradhan, the substance of matter. I am Prakriti, material cause, and I am Purusha, efficient cause. This fairy energy that belongs specially to the Brahman that inheres in you has also been conferred by me. It is by bearing this fairy energy that you regulate the phenomenal world of animate and inanimate objects.
Jai Shri Brahma Samhita ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. So we'll sing a song called Jai Radha Madhava, which Srila Prabhupada always sang before the Srimad Bhagavatam class, and then we'll discuss some verses from the Srimad Bhagavatam. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Girivaradari Jaya Girivaradari 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 Jaya Yashodanandana Jaya Brajana Ranjana Jaya Yashodanandana Brajana Ranjana Jaya Yashodanandana Jaya Brajana Ranjana Jaya Yashodanandana Jaya Brajana Ranjana Jaya Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Yamuna Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jai Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram. Jai Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Guru Deva, Jaya Guru Deva, Jaya Guru Deva, Jaya Guru Deva. Jaya Guru Deva, Jaya Guru Deva, Jaya Guru Deva. Nittai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Nittai Gaura Hari Bol, Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Nittai Gaura Hari Bol. जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस नित्य लीला प्रविष्ट परिव्राजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर शत श्रीमद अभयचरणारविंद भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी शीला प्रभुपाद की जय. ISKCON founder Acharya His AC Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। नामाचार्य शिला ठाकुर हरिदास की जय। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरि गोवर्धन धाम की जय। व्रजभूमि श्री वृंदावन धाम की जय। श्री नवद्वीप मायापुर धाम की जय। पुरुषोत्तम क्षेत्रम श्री जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की जय। श्री जगन्नाथ स्वामी की जय। भक्ति देवी की जय। तुलसी महारानी की जय। गंगा मैया की जय। यमुना मैया की जय। समवेत भक्त वृंद की जय। श्री हरिनाम संकीर्तन की जय। वर्ल्ड वाइड इस्कॉन की जय। ट्रांसेंडेंटल बुक डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन की जय। गौर प्रेमानंदी हरे हरे बोल। All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories, all glories, all glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna. Thank you all for coming once again. It's such an august assembly of devotees here. Actually, it's such a privilege for us to have this opportunity to meet on a Saturday morning when we have nothing else to do. And sincere thanks to Srila Prabhupada and His Grace Vaisheshika Prabhu for giving us this opportunity such that we can all assemble here every week like this. So we'll start with Srimad Bhagavatam. So today's topic is overcoming pride. So we'll start with this verse from Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 1, text 8. Chapter 1, Canto 1, chapter 8, text 26. This is a prayer by Srimati Kunti Devi. Yeah, yes. We'll recite some Mangalacharan prayers before that. So if you have that, you can project that, just the short version. Yes, thank you, Prabhu. We'll all recite together. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Ena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Ena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavangsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tang Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitangsha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute. Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye. Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shrivas Adi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. We'll recite 3 other verses before beginning Srimad Bhagavatam. I'll recite and you can repeat if you want. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayet Shanvatam Svakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Hridyantasto hiya Bhadrani Vidunoti Suhrit Satam Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Ruttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. These verses offer our respects to Vyasadeva, who is the compiler of all the Vedas and the Srimad Bhagavatam, and to Saraswati Devi and to Narayana Rishis, and also glorifies Srimad Bhagavatam as the very means of our conquest over this material energy, and explains how by hearing about Krishna, all that is troublesome in the heart is gradually destroyed to nil, and irrevocable devotional service to the Lord established in the heart is an irrevocable fact. So that's why we hear and relish Srimad Bhagavatam every day. So this verse is from a section spoken by Kunti, Queen Kunti. We'll recite the verse first. Janmaishvarya Shruta Shri-bir Janmaishvarya Shruta Shri-bir Edamana Madapuman Naivar Hatyabitatum Vai Tvam Akinchana Gocharam Janmaishvarya Shruta Shri-bir Edamana Madapuman Naivar Hatyabitatum Vai Tvamakinchana Gocharam Janmaishvarya Shruta Shri-bir Edamana Madapuman Naivar Hatyabitatum Vai Tvamakinchana Gocharam. Any of you would like to repeat? Janmaishvarya Shruta Shri-bir Edamana Madapuman
Naiva Hartyabhidhatum Vai
Naivar Hatyabitatum Vai
Tvamakinchana Gocharam.
Tvamakinchana Gocharam. It just reminded me of Mukunda Datta Prabhu. Anybody else? This way we can memorize the verse. That's why. You can try. Okay. Janmaishvarya Shruta Shri-bir
Edhamana Madapuman
Edamana Madapuman
Naivar Hatyabhidhatum Vai
Naivar Hatyabitatum Vai
Tvam Akinchana Gocharam
Tvamakinchana Gocharam. Janma, birth. Aishvarya, opulence. Shruta, education. Shribi, by the possession of beauty. Edamana, progressively increasing Mada, intoxication, Puman, the human being, Na, never, Eva, ever, Arhati, deserves, Abhitatum, to address in feeling, Vai, certainly, Tvam, you, Akinchana Gocharam, one who is approached easily by the materially exhausted man. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. My Lord, your Lordship can easily be approached, but only by those who are materially exhausted. One who is on the path of material progress, trying to improve himself with respectable parentage, great opulence, high education, and bodily beauty, cannot approach you with sincere feeling. Please repeat, my Lord, your Lordship can easily be approached, but only by those who are materially exhausted. One who is on the path of material progress, trying to improve himself with respectable parentage, great opulence, high education, and bodily beauty, cannot approach you with sincere feeling. Vittal, you want to read the purport?
Being materially advanced means taking birth in an aristocratic family and possessing great wealth and education and attractive personal beauty. All materialistic men are mad after possessing all these material opulences, and this is known as the advancement of material civilization. But the result is that by possessing all these material assets, one becomes artificially puffed up, intoxicated by such temporary possessions. Consequently, such materially puffed up persons are incapable of uttering the holy name of the Lord by addressing Him feelingly, O Govinda, O Krishna. It is said in the Shastras that by once uttering the holy name of the Lord, the sinner gets rid of a quantity of sins that he is unable to commit. Such is the power of uttering the holy name of the Lord. There is not the least exaggeration in this statement. Actually, the Lord's holy name has such powerful potency. But there is a quality to such utterances also. It depends on the quality of feeling. A helpless man can feelingly utter the holy name of the Lord, whereas a man who utters the same holy name in great material satisfaction cannot be so sincere. A materially puffed up person may utter the holy name of the Lord occasionally, but he is incapable of uttering the name in quality. Therefore, the four principles of material advancement, namely high parentage, good wealth, high education, and attractive beauty, are, so to speak, disqualifications for progress on the path of spiritual advancement. The material covering of the pure spirit soul is an external feature, as much as fever is an external feature of the unhealthy body. The general process is to decrease the degree of fever and not to aggravate it by maltreatment. Sometimes it is seen that spiritually advanced persons become materially impoverished. This is no discouragement. On the other hand, such impoverishment is a good sign, as much as the falling of temperature is a good sign. The principle of life should be to decrease the degree of material intoxication, which leads one to be more and more illusioned about the aim of life. Grossly illusioned persons are quite unfit for entrance into the kingdom of God.
Wonderful, thank you. Translation once again. My Lord, Your lordship can easily be approached, but only by those who are materially exhausted. One who is on the path of material progress, trying to improve himself with respectable parentage, great opulence, high education and bodily beauty, cannot approach you with sincere feeling. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhotale Srimate Indridyumna Swamine Namane Namo Prabhupada Priyadasaya Jagannatha Yatrananda Murte Bhakta Sukhaya Krishnot Kirtanena Narshingena Rakshitaya Namaha Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhotale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamine Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nirvisesha Shunivadi Paschati Deshatarane. When I was mentioning to Vittal yesterday about today's topic, he told he asked the same question to His Holiness Bhakti Vikas Swami Maharaj, how to overcome pride. So, you know how strong a personality Bhakti Vikas Maharaj is. So he just answered in only one line. He just asked, what are you proud of? So Vittal didn't have the courage to continue the conversation afterwards. So that's that's a reality. We have actually nothing to be proud of, but we think we have so much that we are worth, and we have a sense of identity based on these external factors that we are attached to. So that's what this verse is actually giving a hint of what are those categories that people are proud of. Janma, Aishwarya, Shruta, Shribi. So Janma is birth. People are proud of their birth. Like, I am born in a Brahmin family. You are born in a low caste family. So people tend to think themselves superior because of that. Let's say when they go to the temple, they may not, respect somebody who is from a lower caste because they think, they have more devotion, like that. I was just reading a story. Once there was a Brahmana who, always reads books, but he didn't have a very good character or consciousness. So there was a prostitute living right opposite his house, and so every day he would recite the shlokas, and then he would be thinking about this prostitute. Why is she behaving so lowly? And he was always thinking of her as a disturbance to him. And when like that, he would pass his days like that, always criticizing or thinking about her in his mind. And then at the time of that, they both happened to die at the same time. And then the Vishnu Dutas come and take the prostitute, and the Yamadutas come for the Brahmana. And then the Brahmana said, wait, there's a mistake. You have mixed up the houses. And he said, no, we are right. He said, why are you, I've been, reciting all this, shlokas so many days, but why are you taking me to the abode of Yamaraj? But then they said, actually, even though you were externally reciting all this, your consciousness was on the lowly activities of the prostitute. So that was your consciousness. Whereas she, even though she was a prostitute, while you were reciting all the verses, she was actually thinking about Krishna. So that's why we are taking her to the Vishnu Loka and you to the Yamaloka. In other words, it's not the external activity we do, but the consciousness with which we do. So like the person may be a Brahmana, but if he's proud of his Brahmanical principles or his birth, he didn't even have the Brahmanical qualities actually, because Brahmana doesn't discriminate like that based on the external bodily features or how a person is situated socially. He sees everybody as spiritual soul. Where does Krishna confirm that in the Bhagavad Gita? Yeah, wonderful. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. You can say it again.
Vidya Vinaya Sampane Brahmana Gavi Hastine Suni Chaiva Sapakecha Pandita Samadarshana.
Yeah, so that's a verse that says a real Pandita or Pandit, like a learned person, is one who has this equal vision to see the same spiritual Atma being present in all these different categories of beings, whether it's a Brahmana, or whether it's a dog, or whether it's an elephant, or whether it's a dog eater. So, irrespective of their external appearance, they see the same spiritual nature. And then, so that's one indication of how, by being proud of one's birth, one loses the ability to see or be a Samadarshi. So that's a flaw of this janma, like, or being attached to one's birth. There's also this example of Haridas Thakur, who he actually, we were reading the Brahma Samhita, he's the incarnation of Lord Brahma himself. But so he prayed to Krishna to have such a lowly birth where he cannot be proud of his birth. So that's how we should behave. Like one in that. So he was, because earlier during Krishna's Leela, Brahma was a little. He wanted to just test Krishna to see if what's the extent of Krishna's power. So he stole all the cows and calves of Krishna, and then Krishna replicated them all. And then Brahma got confused, how I stole everybody, but then everybody is still appearing. And then he understood Krishna's potency. So he felt bad for his mistake of testing Krishna like that. So he wanted to repent for that. So he asked Krishna, please give me a birth where I don't have anything to be proud of. So he was given this birth as Haridas Thakur. But of course, he's such an elevated personality that he's Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is Krishna himself, gave him this position of Namacharya, which is the highest, like a position you can think of, like chanting the holy name of the Lord. So he's the Acharya of the chanting of the holy name of the Lord. In other words, he's the authority for that, which is the most, say, like a refined or elevated service a person can do. Because to be absorbed in the holy names is it seems easy, but it takes a lot of practice and purification to be absorbed in that platform. Even among Krishna's other services, it's relatively easy to do other services because our mind is engaged, our talent is engaged, our propensities are engaged like that. But to fully chant in the holy name of Krishna, just like completely absorbed in that, that's like a because it doesn't engage any other sense. It requires so much love for Krishna to be able to chant day in and day out like that. So Haridas Thakur demonstrated that spiritual perfection of chanting Krishna's names. But he was like born in a Mohammedan family, and he had nothing to be proud of. And again, just like this Brahmana that we were discussing, there were other Brahmanas who were criticizing Haridas Thakur, saying, what is he doing? His chanting is disturbing everybody. And then they complained to the Mohammedan government, telling that he's spoiling our religion. And then they came and they wanted to punish him. And then they asked him to stop. He said, no, I can't stop chanting. And then they beat him with lashes, they whipped him in 22 marketplaces. But still he didn't continue. He didn't stop chanting. And in fact, the gods who were beating him, they were worried because they were supposed to kill him by beating. And if they don't kill, they'll be punished by the government. So Haridas Thakur was kind even to them. He said, okay, I'll pretend to have died so you can be safe that way. And then he went and kind of pretended to drown in the Ganga and then came out on the other side and then continued his service like that. So that's the highest perfection of humility, where he's fully absorbed in the chanting of the holy name and nothing to be proud of, and even forgiving the people who offend him. So that's the character he was demonstrating, whereas the so-called Brahmanas that were criticizing him, one of them, did you remember the name? His nose fell off. Gopal Chapla, right? No, that's... there's another devotee who offended Haridas Thakur. Nose fell off? No. Basically, he was telling Haridas Thakur was glorifying the holy name. that the holy name has all these potencies, and then he didn't have faith in the holy name. He said, if what you say is wrong, your nose will fall off. And then because Haridas Thakur, what he said was right, the person who was criticizing him, his nose fell off. Because that's the purity of the person who is fully absorbed in Krishna without any pride. Basically, he was not trying to project himself as a great devotee. So that's the important sign of a devotee. A devotee never thinks himself as a great. He always glorifies Krishna and keeps Krishna in the center. Just like our Srila Prabhupada, you look at many of the societies, spiritual societies in the world, they are usually named after the founder. Right? This Swami founded, so it's called that mission, or that Swami founded, so it's called that society. It's always named after the founder. But Srila Prabhupada, his society is called International Society for Krishna Consciousness. So he puts Krishna in the center, in the limelight. So he's not taking that position. So that's the unique quality of a pure devotee, is that he's not proud about his accomplishments or any of his opulences, or he doesn't have any personal agenda to fulfill by serving. So that purity is what attracts Krishna. So that's why in this verse it says, one who has all these things, Janma, Aishwarya, Shruti, Shri, all these things, it actually, it's very hard to approach Krishna with sincere feeling when one has all these things. Because one is so complacent and is comfortable, and he may do devotion just as a recreation, right? Not as a necessity of life. It may be a side thing so that he gets a good reputation as a religious person. See, even though he is such a millionaire, he is still worshipping, he is going to temple like that. So he'll also get some more fame because of being religious. So like that. So Krishna, here the Kunti Devi says, usually such persons cannot approach Krishna with sincere feeling. It doesn't mean that one has to be poor, but one shouldn't be attached to his opulences. That's the idea. That's why it's called one who is materially exhausted. You may actually have those things, but your consciousness is not dependent on your strength of identity or power doesn't come from possessing those things. It's much, you live as if you don't have those things, but you're completely dependent on Krishna. So in that consciousness, one can actually approach Krishna with loving feelings. So when such a person prays, it's full of, bhakti, and that is the bhakti that Krishna is attracted by. And Aishwarya, Janma, Aishwarya, opulence. Any examples of people proud of their opulence? Sorry? Yeah, nice example. Indra. Yeah, he may have, in the Srimad Bhagavatam we hear how Indra, who is the king of heaven, he makes so many mistakes because of his, position, because of being, here it says, Edamana Mada. Mada means intoxication. So one time, Indra, his own spiritual master Brihaspati came to the assembly, but he didn't pay attention, didn't pay respect to him. So Brihaspati got offended and he cursed Indra. Like that. So when somebody has the Aishwarya or opulence, it makes you feel so good, and then you don't see the real need to depend on Krishna as much as a person who doesn't have that. So that's why actually in the purport Srila Prabhupada says these actually happen to be disqualifications for progress on the spiritual advancement. So again, doesn't mean that you should not have Aishwarya, but you should not be attached to that. Who's a nice example of who has had so much Aishwarya but wasn't attached to it? Yeah, Ambarish Maharaj. Go ahead.
There's a nice sloka related to this material opulence and how Lord has mercy on such fallen people.
You want to give the mic 1 second? No. This for online attendees. Can you pass the mic? You want to recite that?
Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Brahmanyam Anugrahannami Tad Visho Vidhanomi Aham Yan Madaha Purushah Stabdho Lokam Mam Cha Avamanyate. So he says basically, that Yam Anugrahannami, on whom I have mercy, Tad Visho Vidhanomi Aham, I take away his material opulence. Yan Madaha Purushah Stabdha, he becomes stabdha, bewildered by that madaha, that the people that become madaha due to that, lokam cha mam cha avamanyate, they deride me and the world.
Okay.
So he takes away the material opulence.
Wonderful. Yeah. Which chapter or which scripture is that from? Srimad Bhagavatam. 8:22-24. Oh, 8th canto, 22 chapter, 24th verse. Okay, nice. Let me make a note of it. Okay. Yeah, Aishwarya. So, any other examples of that? Ambarish Maharaj, he had such an opulent kingdom. He was a king of the entire country, but he wasn't attached to it. He was always engaged in serving Krishna and using all his opulence in service of Krishna. Yeah, Parikshit, Yudhishthir, Srila Prabhupada, yeah. Huh? Right, Ambarish Prabhu, yeah. Wonderful. And any examples of who pleased Krishna by not having opulence? By having a devotion? Sudama Brahmana. Yeah, Kolavecha Sridhar. That's one of the beautiful pastimes in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Kolavecha Sridhar, he is a pure devotee of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is incarnation of Krishna. So he was a banana product seller. He would sell bananas and banana leaves, like that. And he would make only 1 rupee per day. And then out of that he would spend 50% for the worship of Mother Ganga. So he just maintained his livelihood with the remaining 50%. And he had practically no possessions. And he was so devoted to Krishna. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would come to him and bargain with him for the price of the bananas. Even though he was making so little, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was so fond of his devotional service that he would bargain with him for an hours together to reduce the price. And that's because Mahaprabhu wanted to taste his devotion. So that's the kind of devotees that we have examples of, who don't have any Aishwarya but completely devoted to Krishna. And also we recited of people who have Aishwarya but completely devoted to Krishna. So we have both examples for each. So that the thing itself is not the bottleneck, but the consciousness with which we see things. Whether are we proud of our opulence, or are we completely using it for Krishna. And next is our Shuddha, our education. So why does education make one proud? This is actually very true in modern society, unfortunately. So many people think themselves so learned, but all their knowledge is actually ignorance. Especially with respect to modern science, people have so much technology and theories. But if you look at the basis of it all, it's all they make the first mistake. Srila Prabhupada says, if you make a first mistake in a calculation, you're adding 100 numbers, and you make a mistake in the first addition of first 2 numbers, and then no matter how well you add all these numbers, you're not going to get the correct result, right? So like that, for the very first principle is you have to find out how life arises, right? So they haven't, don't bother solving that. Of course, they put a name to it. It's called abiosynthesis. And then they just set aside that problem. Okay, let somebody else solve that problem while we work on the fact that, okay, assuming life exists, how does all species come about? And so they propose this theory of evolution. And, it's such an elaborate theory with so much details. And then every time they hit a problem, they invent one more step in the theory, and then they make it even more elaborate. And finally, it's like a, avalanche effect, yeah. So it's like a complete deluge of this theories. And then they all revel and, swim in that ocean like, as if everything is proved like that. But when you remind them of, hey, by the way, that problem is not solved, do you understand? Do you know that? Oh yeah, that's there. But, they just completely ignore the original problem, which is how does life come from matter? Without explaining that, there's no point in explaining how other life forms come from. So that's an example of this being proud of their education, because they say, oh yeah, our theories are so testable, we can, we are not having faith in anything, we can prove whatever we are saying, like that. And to the extent they are being illusion, is that now they say there's actually not even free will. Even free will is an illusion. So that's the extent they have come to. That even free will is an illusion, because they do some experiments with in neurology, with how the brain signals are generated before decisions are made, in some made up experiment like that. And then they use that as a basis. See, that proves that we don't have free will. And this guy was giving a lecture. Throughout the lecture he was telling, I'm going to convince you that we don't have free will. I'm going to convince you that we don't have free will. I was thinking, if you don't have free will, why does he have to convince anybody? Right? But they're like, it's so covered up, but they're so proud of their education. So to such a people, if you just go and tell about Krishna, they'll just laugh, thinking you are like from a very old age and you haven't caught up with all the education. So it's so unfortunate that and the Srimad Bhagavatam, it said like blind leading the blind. So it's a very pathetic state of affairs. These people are like the leaders of the world. They make these decisions. They invest in different technologies. They fund the universities. They fund all the scientific research. But their basic premise is that consciousness arises from matter. That's wrong. So every other calculation, no matter how sophisticated it appears to be, is gone. So that's a flaw of, actually even there are people, even in science, who are more humble than that. They are proud of the same, even though they may be professing a certain theory, they understand that that's the only theory we have now, and they are open to the possibilities of other ways of explaining things. They just don't summarily discard other ways, and some of them are they are religious people as well, just that they don't know how to reconcile. And some of them even have acquaintance with the Vedic scriptures and see how the Vedic paradigm explains some of these problems they are solving. So those people are very few. But it's possible to have education, even modern education, but not be bewildered by it. So all of this boils down to your consciousness. So am I willing to be humble? Then you can see this broader picture. You can see your own pitfalls. Whereas if one is proud of one's own domain of knowledge, then he may think, okay, I am the only one right, everybody is wrong. So that's the same attitude they criticize the religion is off, and then they fall into the same pitfall. So Shruta.
Even in spiritual circles, there is this nice trap of goodness, where you just try to get intellectual satisfaction from scriptures, from shlokas, from verses, and instead of cultivating devotion. So that's also education, but it can become a nice trap.
Yeah.
You just become puffed up.
Yes. Yes, go ahead, Prabhu. Use the mic.
Yeah, to that point, Prabhuji, Bhaju Govindam, that prayer is there. Shankaracharya says that Bhaju Govindam, Bhaju Govindam, Bhaju Govindam Mudmate, Samprapte Sannihite Kale, Nahi Nahi Rakshati, Dukkham Karane. So, the time of the death, all these grammar rules, elaborate grammar rules will not help you. What will remember? You have to, the holy names of the Lord will be the only shelter.
Wonderful. Yeah, and there are many pastimes of, great learned scholar. They call, in India, that was so it's a kind of a recreation. They call them Digvijay Pandit. They go everywhere and conquer people by their arguments and knowledge. So, in Chaitanya Charitamrita we have how once there was a Digvijay Pandit. He came to challenge Mahaprabhu, and then Mahaprabhu told him, hey, I am Saraswati Devi, Saraswati, goddess Saraswati came in his dream, and then she told him, hey, I am getting all my knowledge from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. You are trying to defeat him, that won't work. And then he left the place. Like that. So people are proud of their education, even as Harivamsa told, even of Vedic education. So it's not that only modern education makes you puffed up. So any education. So even if you, so it's in our consciousness. Even if you read one verse, you may be proud that I am reciting this verse better than others. It's to that degree. It can be, we may be not having anything. This may be the only verse of the scripture we may have ever read. That doesn't matter. That's why Prabhupada says every pauper is proud of his penny. So pride doesn't mean that you have to have a lot to become proud. Even if you have so little, you can become proud of that. Because it's in the consciousness. If it's in the consciousness, it'll come no matter what the quantity of the surrounding is. So that's what Bhagavatam is trying to understand. Get rid of that from your consciousness. Then when you get so much more, you are not bewildered by it. You won't forget Krishna like that. So that is actually a very practical example, because sometimes in India when you go, you'll see beggars on the street. So they have their boundaries within that street. There may be 10 beggars sitting. They all have their spaces, and then they may have their own ranking system, which is a better spot where you get more revenue. Oh, this is a corner spot. All these calculations are there. If you look at it, and they may be proud that I'm earning better, whatever. But so we laugh at it, right? But that's the same thing all these companies are doing. Google, Facebook, Apple, they are all just trying to get their share of the people's revenue. It's just so sophisticated. It doesn't look like begging or like that, but actually it's all trying to get people's attention and money in very sophisticated ways. So so that idea is that everybody can be proud of something that can be as little as your begging spot or as great as your company, right? It doesn't matter. It's just the same activity in just different proportions. So we have to be careful about that. And how about the positive aspect of that Shruta, who please Chaitanya Mahaprabhu or Krishna with their devotion? Goswamis, yeah. So they were all very, very learned people. Like for example, Sanatan Goswami, he was the Prime Minister of half of India. And to serve Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he just gave it up. He wasn't attached to his position, and he knew 7 languages. And he was so learned, extremely learned. And when he went to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he asked, people say I am learned, but I am such a fool that I don't even know who I am. So he asked, please tell me who I am, how I should serve Krishna. Like that. So that is the humility exhibited by these people who are really learned. So they really have something to be proud of, but they are not proud of them. What to speak of us who don't have anything to be proud of, but still we are proud of. So also there is this nice story of the South Indian Brahmin who was reading Bhagavad Gita. So when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came, this Brahmin was crying and reading the Bhagavad Gita. And when Mahaprabhu came, what are you reading? He said, I'm reading the Bhagavad Gita. He said, do you understand the meaning? He said, no, I don't understand the meaning of these verses. But then how are you crying without understanding the meaning of the verse? And he said, he showed the picture of Krishna driving the chariot of Arjuna. He said, this is the Supreme Lord. He is driving the chariot of his devotee. He is becoming the servant of his devotee. That, breaks my heart. I cannot, tolerate that the Supreme Lord himself is becoming the servant of his devotee. How great such a person may be. I'm just, overwhelmed by that feeling. I'm reading Bhagavad Gita because my spiritual master asked me to read it, but I'm an illiterate person. I don't even know how to read. But so I'm just doing it as a duty because he asked me to do. But that's why I'm crying. So that's the actual true meaning of education. One can be knowing so little, but their conclusions are perfect. They have understood the conclusion of the Gita or the Bhagavatam, which is to completely devote oneself to Krishna and develop love for Krishna. So if you have gotten that one thing, doesn't matter how many verses you know or how well you recite or anything. At the same time, if you know and you can recite very nicely as Harivamsa Prabhu did, right? So that's so sweet, and you can give joy to so many devotees by doing everything so nicely. So it's not that any of these is bad. It's just that we have to use it properly. So when you can't use it properly, better you don't have it, because at least you'll remain humble. Because when you have it and then can't use it, that's more dangerous. So it doesn't mean that we shouldn't try to cultivate this, but we should cultivate all these qualities like education or opulence or whatever we are trying to gain. We have to cultivate or use them, like do that activity with the motive to please Krishna. So when Krishna is there, then that thing becomes perfect. And when Krishna is not there, that becomes a disturbance or a trouble. Is that clear? So that's why we are seeing all these examples to see how when the spirit of that activity is maintained, that's what pleases Krishna, not the externals. So the externals may be there, may not be there. If the consciousness is there, it acts accordingly. And Shri, by the possession of beauty. Are we proud of our beauty? Yeah, most of us can say yes to that. Probably they have a nice this thing, the song, right? Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the prettiest of them all? And the mirror answers, yeah, it's you. So yeah, we all like to dress nicely and appear nicely and all. It's not wrong. Just that when you are proud of that, then that's wrong. So we can dress nicely for the pleasure of Krishna. So that's how we purify that tendency. Yeah, I'm going to the temple, I should be dressed nicely because Krishna is seeing me. When we take darshan of Krishna, it's not only we are taking darshan of Krishna, but Krishna is also seeing us. It's a two-way process. So I need to appear clean and fresh to give pleasure to Krishna. So that is the consciousness with which when the gopis dress themselves, they don't think of their beauty, but they think of how can I please Krishna with my beauty. So the beauty itself is not a problem, but how do you use it? When you use it for Krishna's service, then that becomes the best utilization of that. So that's what the Bhagavatam is telling. You have all these things, but if you don't have Krishna, then all of this is a source of trouble. So, example of any examples of beauty from the scriptures? You can elaborate on that?
Yeah, I mean, even if you now go to Vrindavan and see the pictures of the Vigraha of Goswami, we can just marvel over the beauty, and the scriptures also describe how, I mean, they were just like stars at that time, and every bodily feature was amazing, and they were very attractive. But still, they just gave it all up. And same is true with many saints in that time.
Wonderful. Can you use the mic?
The other aspect is devotees like Hanuman, Jambavan, they're born in monkey and ape and bear family.
Right.
But they pleased Lord Ramchandra by their service.
Yeah, wonderful, sir. Wonderful point. So anybody who was puffed up because of their beauty and didn't serve Krishna? Yeah, very nice point. Use the mic.
That's the when they were taking bath in the Mandakini Ganga, and then they were having pleasure sports, but the women became shy when Narad came, but they were puffed up with their beauty. In addition, they were already intoxicated, so they didn't pay any respects. That's why they were cursed, but it was a blessing.
Wonderful. Thank you, Prabhu. Yeah, so we have all examples of that, how a person can be proud of his beauty and then cause a ruination to themselves, or they can use the beauty in service of Krishna. So then there's one very nice verse. I hope I have it here. I just have to look up 1 second. Yeah, there's a beautiful verse here, which kind of summarizes all the points that we discussed. This is from Srila Rupa Goswami's Padyavali. Where were the hunter Dharma's piety, Dhruva's maturity, and Gajendra's knowledge? Where was Kubja's beauty? Where was Sudama's wealth? Where was Vidura's noble birth? Where was Ugrasena's chivalrous strength? Lord Madhava is pleased only by devotional service and not by material qualifications. Such a beautiful verse, right? So I'll read it again. Where were the hunter Dharma's piety, Dhruva's maturity, and Gajendra's knowledge? Where was Kubja's beauty? Where was Sudama's wealth? Where was Vidura's noble birth? Where was Ugrasena's chivalrous strength? Lord Madhava is pleased only by devotional service and not by material qualifications. So such a nice verse which tells how Krishna looks for the bhakti in the heart, not these external qualifications. Like Gajendra didn't have any knowledge, but he only had devotion to Krishna, and then Krishna came and saved him in the form of his Vishnu form. And Dhruva is a small boy. He had a quarrel, family quarrel, and he said, I'm going to sort it out with God. I'm going to find God and get a kingdom better than my father and greater than my great-grandfather and better than my great-grandfather. So that's his motive. He went and then just went to the forest to meditate. Like 5-year-old boy just going off the house to forest to meditate. Like that's not very mature plan. But still Krishna helped him by sending him Narada Muni and by giving him darshan. So that where is Dhruva's maturity? But Krishna didn't mind that. He sees the seed of bhakti in the heart and then reciprocates accordingly. So this verse gives so much hope, is that we don't have to be, as Vaisheshik Prabhu always says, we don't have to be great devotees, we just have to be good devotees. So we don't have to compare, we don't have to compete with others in order to establish ourselves in the community or in the congregation or anywhere. We just have to be who we are and develop our inner devotion to Krishna and be of whatever service we can be to the best of our ability. So by doing that, there is so much bliss in the heart, which is what all bhakti is about, that we can experience that. Whereas when we are comparing ourselves with others and trying to be proud of our achievements and compete with others, it creates such a kind of a vacuum in the heart and so much anxiety, and it's a constant struggle then even though we are doing devotional service, we are actually not relishing any of the benefits of pure devotional service. So that's why these topics are important to reflect on. And one question, so why do we succumb to this pride if it's so bad? We all know. Any thoughts on that? Why do we become proud if we know all these pitfalls? Yeah, you can use the mic. It's there. For the online attendees, we know you are not trying to. You are trying to be humble by not using the mic.
I'm not sure if I'm right, Prabhuji, but I've heard it's relatively easier to give gross body sense enjoyment, Kamini Kanchan, as compared to the enjoyment of subtle body, Pratishtha Asha.
Right.
So basically this is when one suppresses the enjoyment of gross body initially by following spiritual practices, etc. Naturally the Pratishtha Asha increases. And my understanding is even in like sannyasis, devotees, etc., it's there, but in different degrees. And when it's totally dissolved, then you become Paramhans. But that takes several lifetimes, etc. So it's not easy to give it up.
Mm-hmm. Nice point. Actually, yeah, just like if you clean a room, if your room is entirely messy with all objects lying around and everywhere, you're not going to see the little spots on the floor. First, you have to clean up all the big objects and get them out of the way. Only if you clean them up, then you will see the small spots. So like that, these subtle, anarthas that we have, we may not see them until we stop the gross anarthas. Because these may be, it's like, your resolution is now at the gross level. It's not even coming fine to this level, lower level. So we have to clear up the gross anarthas, and then the subtle anarthas will start manifesting. So that's why it may look like it's increasing, but it's always been there. Just that we haven't been conscious of that level. So in that sense, in beginning of devotional service, we don't understand all these complexities. So we think, oh, it's so easy to serve Krishna. Why are these people not serving? And then we come and start serving Krishna, and it's very nice in the beginning, especially. And then by the nature of bhakti attracts. That's the nature of bhakti, because it's Krishna's energy, and it's it has this attractive power. So it attracts wealth, it attracts fame, it attracts all these things. So which is why we have to be super careful, because even though initially when we started practicing devotions, we may not have anything to be proud of, we may become proud of because of the side effects of the bhakti. So bhakti will produce these things. Like let's say if you sing nicely, somebody's going to come and tell you, Prabhu, you sang such a nice kirtan, right? So you had no idea that you sang so nicely before that kirtan. So next time, you become conscious of it. So that's the problem. That doesn't mean that you have to sing badly. You have to sing nicely for Krishna's pleasure, but not be attached to the fame that comes as a result of it. So that's why after that you have to solve the next problem, which is this, dealing with these things. So, different devotees have different strategies for that. We'll come to that in a minute. But prior to that, why do we succumb to this pride? What is the cause or forcing? What causes us to succumb to that?
Is it our desire to enjoy separately?
Yes.
Or trying to lord over things, which is the root cause?
Exactly.
And
right.
There are different opportunities. Okay, now try this out. Now try this out.
Exactly. So it's not that we are kind of acquiring it. It's inherent in our presence in this world. So that's what Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita. Ichcha dvesha samuttena dvandva mohena bharata sarva bhutani sammoham sarge yanti parantapa. He says all living beings are in this world because of duality of desire and hate. Because of that duality, which means to desire to be like Krishna and hate, being envious of the position of Krishna. Like, in other words, we want to be the center of attraction. We want to be the center of. So that's such a inherent. It's like such a deep rooted in our consciousness which is why that reflects in these things as pride and other corollaries. Because that is so inherently, embedded in our consciousness currently, that's the problem. So that's why you can see why even a pauper is proud of his penny, because that's why the pauper is here, because he has this icha and dvesha. So he is naturally going to compare himself with others and feeling better than others. Naturally he is going to be desirous of others' position. So nobody is exempt from this except one who is purified that consciousness to fully focus once again on Krishna and put Krishna in the center. So that's why a devotee, whatever a devotee thinks, basically we have to change the thought process. So let's say if something is there, instead of thinking it's for my enjoyment, we have to see it as this is for Krishna's enjoyment, and how I can facilitate that. It's easy to do, it's easy to tell, but it's hard to apply at each step. And when we are consistently successful in applying that, then proportional to that degree, all the spiritual realizations become manifest in our heart. And that's what all the Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam is about. It is to bring about the change of consciousness. Every step of the way, you can ask this question, is it for me or is it for Krishna? How we can evaluate, we can debug ourselves, our own consciousness, we can debug it. Am I thinking like this? Okay, that means I'm still materially attached. So can we think differently? Okay, how can I think differently? Okay, this is for Krishna's service. And then that way, when things come, you can use it for Krishna's service properly, and that is what Srila Rupa Goswami calls as proper renunciation. Renunciation doesn't mean you renounce something that can be used for Krishna's service. That is artificial renunciation. Whereas proper renunciation means using something that's meant for Krishna's service in the service of Krishna without any personal attachment or agenda. Srila Prabhupada would comment sometimes, the Mayavad sannyasis, they think that money is an illusion and they don't even touch money. Srila Prabhupada said, I can get as much money you have to give, because he was completely confident that he can use it for Krishna. So there is no problem with money itself, it's how you use it or how you become attached to it. So, and there's one nice principle that Srila Prabhupada tells in one of his purport to Bhagavad Gita 3:38. He says, while one enjoys sense gratification, it may be that there is some feeling of happiness, but actually that so-called feeling of happiness is the ultimate enemy of the sense enjoyer. So I'll read it again. While one enjoys sense gratification, it may be that there is some feeling of happiness. So we can apply the same to pride. So when we are proud of something, we may be happy, about that in a short term. So there may be maybe you are better, right? So one may ask, what is the problem in recognizing that I am better than others? You may be better, right? So you may have some feeling of happiness because of that. But here it says, but actually that so-called feeling of happiness is the ultimate enemy of the sense enjoyer. Because that happiness is what keeps you from the real happiness of the spiritual world. So it's amazing how, like in software also, when I used to work in Microsoft, one of the biggest problems for Microsoft is the biggest competitor. Let's say if Microsoft releases Windows 10, the biggest competitor to Windows 10 is Windows 8, yeah. So the previous version of that software is the biggest competitor to that next version. Why? Because people don't want to move away from it. They don't want to upgrade from it. So it's not that for them the competition is somebody else. It's not that they have to compete with other people but their own previous version of their users are not upgrading to the latest version, so they don't get as much revenue as they hope to be. So that's why they continually deprecate the older versions, so that you are forced to upgrade and give them money. So similar example here. So that when we are engaged in sense gratification, there is some material sense gratification at a lower level, and we are attached to that. And because of that, we are not ready to move on to the next higher level. So, as I said, when we sing a nice Kirtan and somebody may be praising us for it, and we get attached to that and remain at that level, I want more of that, rather than, the pure devotion for Krishna, which is much, much more sweeter. We don't have such experience, but at least in theory we should know that that is the highest goal and not be attached to the lower levels of this thing. So in other words, the way to overcome pride is by focusing on the higher goal or the next level, so that we are not stuck at the current level and try to they say what do you call, don't rest on your laurels like that, because whatever we have, whatever we are proud of may be taken away at a moment's notice, either by our karma or by Krishna. So it doesn't matter whether you are a devotee or non-devotee, it doesn't matter, because if you are a non-devotee, it goes away by your karma. If you are a devotee, it may go away even by Krishna. That's the verse, part of the verse you quoted. So I have another verse. This is the Srimad Bhagavatam 10:88-8. Here it says, Yasyaham anugruhnami harishe tad dhanam shanai tato dhanam tyajantyasya svajana dukkha dukkitam. The personality of God had said, if I especially favor someone, I gradually deprive him of his wealth. Then the relatives and friends of such a poverty-stricken man abandon him. In this way, he suffers one distress after another. So this is the result we'll get by worshipping Krishna. Are you sure you want to come to the temple again? So this is the beauty. See how Krishna actually says that to favor somebody, he deprives them of his wealth. This is the understanding of pure devotional service. Sometimes people I worship, why did this person lose all his wealth? He has been worshipping God for so many years. So in India, that's the kind of thing people think, or even West. So I did so much for God. Why is God doing this to me? But they don't realize this is how God operates. He says, if I especially favor someone, I gradually deprive him of his wealth. Then the relatives and friends of such a poverty-stricken man abandon him. In this way, he suffers one distress after another. Why? So that he can come back to Krishna and enjoy the highest opulence. So that's the hidden goal there. So we shouldn't see anything at the external face value. We should really see the inner spirit of things. And there's one very beautiful section in the Bhagavatam, in the first canto, chapter 15. Prabhu, if you can do the chapter view, we can read from half probably from verse 10 or something. It concludes with a particular verse which I wanted to conclude, but if you read the whole that section, it'll be nice. Maybe somewhere around, let me check. Let me check which verse it is. We can start from verse 5. We'll just read the translations and then we'll just do the purport of the last verse in the section 15. Yeah. So this is the section in the Bhagavatam where Yudhishthira Maharaj is inquiring Arjuna. Arjuna went to see Krishna in Dwaraka, but he hadn't heard back from him for a long time, so he's waiting for the news of Krishna. Actually, Krishna had disappeared from this planet, and Arjuna is sad because of that, and he's now coming back. And then Yudhishthira Maharaj is asking him what happened. So Arjuna is now replying. So you can see how the goal of this section to see how Krishna is so integral to the life of a devotee, and without Krishna nothing makes sense. So here Arjuna said, "O King, the Supreme Personality of Godhead Hari, who treated me exactly like an intimate friend, has left me alone. Thus my astounding power, which astonished even the demigods, is no longer with me. I have just lost him, whose separation for a moment would render all the universes unfavorable and void, like bodies without life." And the next one, "Only by his merciful strength was I able to vanquish all the lusty princes assembled at the palace of King Drupada for the selection of the bridegroom. With my bow and arrow, I could pierce the fish target and thereby gain the hand of Draupadi." You can see how Arjuna is recollecting Krishna's presence in every one of his, success. 8. "Because he was near me, it was possible for me to conquer with great dexterity the powerful king of heaven Indradev, along with his demigod associates, and thus enable the fire god to devastate the Khandava forest. and only by his grace was a demon named Maya saved from the blazing Khandava forest. And thus we could build our assembly house of wonderful architectural workmanship, where all the princes assembled during the performance of Rajasuya Yajna and paid you tributes. Your respectable young brother, who possesses the strength of 10,000 elephants, killed by his grace Jarasandha, whose feet were worshipped by many kings. These kings had been brought for sacrifice in Jarasandha's Maha Bhairava Yajna, but they were thus released. Later they paid tribute to your majesty. It was he only who loosened the hair of all the wives of the miscreants who dared open the cluster of your queen's hair, which had been nicely dressed and sanctified for the great Rajasuya sacrificial ceremony. At that time, she fell down at the feet of Lord Krishna with tears in her eyes. During our exile, Durvasa Muni, who eats with his 10,000 disciples, intrigued with our enemies to put us in dangerous trouble. At that time, he, Lord Krishna, simply by accepting the remnants of food, saved us. By his accepting food thus, the assembly of Munis, while bathing in the river, felt sumptuously fed, and all the three worlds were also satisfied. It was by his influence only that in a fight I was able to astonish the personality of Godhead Lord Shiva and his wife, the daughter of Mount Himalaya. Thus he, Lord Shiva, became pleased with me and awarded me his own weapon. Other demigods also delivered their respective weapons to me, and in addition I was able to reach the heavenly planets in this present body and was allowed a half-elevated seat. When I stayed for some days as a guest in the heavenly planets, all the heavenly demigods, including King Indradeva, took shelter of my arms, which were marked with the Gandiva bow, to kill the demon named Nivatakavacha. O King, descendant of Ajamida, at the present moment I am bereft of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, by whose influence I was so powerful. The military strength of the Kauravas was like an ocean in which there dwelt many invincible existences, and thus it was insurmountable. But because of his friendship, I, seated on the chariot, was able to cross over it. And only by his grace was I able to regain the cows and also collect by force many helmets of the kings, which were bedecked with jewels that were sources of all brilliance. We'll read up to 21, so that's where the nectar is. I mean, everything is nectar, that's a climax. It was he only who withdrew the duration of life from everyone, and who, in the battlefield, withdrew the speculative power and strength of enthusiasm from the great military phalanx made by the Kauravas, headed by Bhishma, Karna, Drona, Shalya, etc. Their arrangement was expert and more than adequate, but he, Lord Krishna, while going forward, did all this. Great generals like Bhishma, Drona, Karna, Bhurishrava, Shusharma, Shalya, Jayadratha and Balika all directed their invincible weapons against me. But by his, Lord Krishna's grace, they could not even touch a hair on my head. Similarly, Prahlad Maharaj, the supreme devotee of Lord Nrsingadev, was unaffected by the weapons the demons used against him. It was by his mercy only that my enemies neglected to kill me when I descended from my chariot to get water for my thirsty horses. And it was due to my lack of esteem for my Lord that I dared engage him as my chariot driver, for he is worshipped and offered services by the best men to attain salvation. O King, his jokings and frank talks were pleasing and beautifully decorated with smiles. His addresses unto me as, O son of Pritha, O friend, O son of the Kuru dynasty, and all such heartiness are now remembered by me, and thus I am overwhelmed. Generally, both of us used to live together and sleep, sit and loiter together. And at the time of advertising oneself for acts of chivalry, sometimes if there were any irregularity, I used to reproach him by saying, "My friend, you are very untruthful." Even in those hours when his value was minimized, he, being the Supreme Soul, used to tolerate all those utterings of mine, excusing me exactly as a true friend excuses his true friend, or a father excuses his son. O Emperor, now I am separated from my friend and dearmost well-wisher, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and therefore my heart appears to be void of everything. In his absence, I have been defeated by a number of infidel cowherd men while I was guarding the bodies of all the wives of Krishna. Text 21. I have the very same Gandiva bow, the same arrows, the same chariot, drawn by the same horses, and I use them as the same Arjuna, to whom all the kings offered their due respects. But in the absence of Lord Krishna, all of them, at a moment's notice, have become null and void. It is exactly like offering clarified butter on ashes, accumulating money with a magic wand, or sowing seeds on barren land. This is such an impressive verse. He says, I have the very same Gandiva bow, the same arrows, the same chariot, drawn by the same horses, and I use them as the same Arjuna, to whom all the kings offered their due respects. But in the absence of Lord Krishna, all of them at a moment's notice have become null and void. Because this Arjuna was protecting the wives of the Krishna after Krishna departed. But as I said in the previous verse, he was defeated by just cowherd men with sticks on their path. So that's why Arjuna is thinking, wow, as he told all these things, he was victorious over the Kauravas and such stalwarts of enemies in the battlefield, in which so many weapons and people were used. He was able to do all of those, but now with a few cowherd men were able to tell him, even though he had the same bow, same arrow, same horse, and same person. So what is the difference, right? So the difference is Krishna's presence. Sorry? Yes, go ahead.
Sometimes a question comes, how come the wives of Krishna were being taken away by some cowherd men? So I got some answer from one of them. He said that those cowherd men who defeated Arjuna were actually Krishna himself.
Right.
He came in the form of cowherd man because formerly the wives of Krishna, sometimes they made some offense against one of the munis or saintly persons, and they cursed him that he will be defeated by you will be I don't know what's the curses, but something like you will be taken away by some cowherd and something like that, and then they begged for forgiveness. They said that okay, Krishna himself will come in those forms.
Right. Wonderful. Like that. Actually, that's mentioned in the purport to this verse. I don't know if you knew that. Yeah, in this purport, the 21 verse purport. I can read that actually. Maybe you can show the purport. No, it should be in the previous verse purport, I think. Let me check. Yeah. Previous verse purport, verse 20 purport. $115. Yeah, the purport, the important point in this verse is how it was possible that Arjuna could be defeated by a gang of ignoble cowherd men, and how such mundane cowherd men could touch the bodies of the wife of Lord Krishna, who were under the protection of Arjuna. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has justified the contradiction by research in the Vishnu Purana and Brahma Purana. In these Puranas, it is said that once the fair denizens of heaven pleased Ashtavakra Muni by their service and were blessed by the Muni to have the Supreme Lord as their husband. Ashtavakra Muni was curved in 8 joints of his body, and thus he used to move in a peculiar curved manner. The daughters of the demigods could not check their laughter upon seeing the movements of the Muni, and the Muni, being angry at them, cursed them that they would be kidnapped by rogues, even if they would get the Lord as their husband. Later on, the girls again satisfied the Muni by their prayers, and the Muni blessed them that they would regain their husband even after being robbed by the rogues. So, in order to keep the words of the great Muni, the Lord himself kidnapped his wives from the protection of Arjuna. Otherwise, they would have at once vanquished from the scene as soon as they were touched by the rogues. Besides that, some of the gopis who prayed to become wives of the Lord returned to their respective positions after their desire was fulfilled. After the departure of Lord Krishna, he wanted all his entourage back to Godhead, and they were called back under different conditions only. So whatever Ramananda Saka Prabhu said was completely authorized. So so you can see now, externally it may appear that these cowherd men are doing, but we understand that that's Krishna himself doing it. So that's why Krishna was telling earlier, everything happens by his thing. When he wants to favor somebody, he may favor by giving so much, and when he wants to favor somebody, he may favor by taking away it also. So in both cases, it's Krishna's favor. So we should not think that only if good things happen to us, then it's Lord's mercy. So even if bad things happen to us, Krishna says, the Brahma says elsewhere, Tatenu kampam sushamikshamaano bunjana evatma kritam vipakam. So when bad things happen, one should think that I should have gotten much, much worse reaction for my past behavior, but I'm just getting a little token from Krishna because Krishna wants me to learn something from this. So I'm just getting a little token, and then one should continue with patience and perseverance and move on in their devotional service. So that is the best way to tolerate both happiness and distress. So these are some of the ideas, especially this was, I love this, how Arjuna says, I am the same person, everything is same, but what is the difference? The difference is the Krishna factor. So that's a very nice way to meditate for us, so that we don't become proud of any of our achievements. Because whatever we are achieving is only by Krishna's grace. And if Krishna takes that grace away, then all our achievements are useless. This happens to so many people. They are proud of their body gets deformed one day. They are proud of their wealth gets destroyed one day by a stock crash or whatever. Every single thing that we are attached to that's not related to Krishna can get destroyed. So knowing that is so ephemeral, one should not place one's focus on any of those temporary things and focus on the eternal service to Krishna, which is always guaranteed. Yes, Prabhu, you had some comment?
It's a very related shlok, Prabhuji, direct from Bhagavatam, I think. Bhagavad Bhakti Hinasya Jati Shasti Japa Tapaha Apranasya Tehasya Mandanam Lok Ranjanam, I think by Prahlad Maharaj, maybe.
Can you tell the translation also? Or paraphrase it?
Bhagavad Bhakti, so anything, Jati, Japa Tapaha, there is one thing that I am missing, which is divide of devotional service. Pranasya Dehasya, it's like decorating a dead body basically.
Wonderful.
Yes, I'm not sure, I have to search. I'm missing one word, I'm sorry.
Very nice, Prabhu. Yeah. And also, there is one other small section that I wanted to read, in which Lord Brahma, he prays, because Lord Brahma is the creator of the universe. He's a engineer of this entire universe. So imagine what kind of complexity he has to deal with and how much achievements he can be proud of, right? You can ask, hey, what did I do? I created this house. And if you ask Lord Brahma, hey, I created this universe, right? It's so much to be proud of. So he is praying. This is from Canto 2, Chapter 9, Text 30. Actually, you can show the chapter view. We'll read a few verses after this. Sure. Oh my Lord, the unborn, you have shaken hands with me just as a friend does with a friend, as if equal in position. I shall be engaged in the creation of different types of living entities, and I shall be occupied in your service. I shall have no perturbation. But I pray that all this may not give rise to pride, as if I were the Supreme. So this is a very nice verse to meditate or keep us in our mind. So that this is Lord Brahma. He says to the Garbhodakasaya Vishnu, whom he prays at the beginning of creation. He says, I have so much things to do, but please, I pray that this may not give rise to pride, as if I were the supreme. Because pride means we are not taking the total picture into consideration. We are just taking our contribution and exaggerating it. But there is so much cooperation done by the Supreme Lord, by nature, by other living entities. They're all part of our, achievement. So we have to give credit where it's due. So Brahma is praying that he has that consciousness. Go ahead, Harivamsa Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhu. It was wonderful class. I just heard a comment somewhere in the lecture that pride is like a black ant on the black rock on a black dark night. It's there. You just have to shine, become aware. It's such a thing which is there in the conditioned state. To get rid of it.
Wonderful. So in this section, a few verses later, Lord Krishna assures how Brahma can be devoid of that pride. Go ahead, Prabhu.
Sorry, Prabhuji, I wanted to ask a question similar to this. Do we have...
Okay, we'll do that then. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Prabhuji, one of the issues with such anartha is it's very subtle.
Mm-hmm.
Even if a devotee gets angry, he realizes maybe after a few minutes, few hours, few days that I did a wrong thing. But pride is such an anartha that, it creeps in very slowly. It's there. And it's very difficult to, realize it. Sometimes realizing the issue itself is a big deal.
Uh-huh.
And, whether you solve it or not is a different thing. But especially from a devotee's perspective, because rarely other devotees will say, oh, you are very proud, unless you are very close to him or you're really a mentor to that person. So any advice, Prabhuji, in the first step on, trying to is identifying one in one own self. As Prabhuji just gave a very nice thing, it's already there, but everything is black, it's difficult to pinpoint it. Any good hint? What is the first step, in trying to find that? Because it's probably hidden, and probably, it's like a sleeping cobra. Uh-huh. Like, when a person says, you are singing, you give an example, you're singing very nice cobra, and that cobra raises the hood. It's probably there. So, some hints, how to at least recognize it.
Yeah, there's one very easy test actually. And this is hard to spoof, so it's a very reliable test. Examine your consciousness when one of your peers does a nice service that you would have liked to do, or you would have liked to be credited for, or whatever. So imagine how your consciousness feels at that time. That's a nice test. For example, let's say so-and-so distributed so many books, right? So if that person was some other part of the world, let's say Gujarat or somebody, then we would be, wow, Jai, Srila Prabhupada, Sankirtan movement is spreading. We would take it as a real thing. But let's say Mukaravinda distributed books. How come Mukaravinda, he was usually distribute 5-10 books, how is he distribute 50 books, because we are so close and we are being compared against Mukaravinda, then the same appreciation, Jai Srila Prabhupada, Sankirtan movement is expanding, is not the first thing in our mind. The first thing is, how can, I should have done that, or, how can, you see the comparison or that tendency is there. So when it's there, then we can understand that, those are the things we are attached to, not the expansion of the Sankirtan movement. So when that happens with such a close person that's next to us, then we know that, when we hear that news and then we are fully happy with it, then we know that, basically pride and envy, they go together. Basically, that's when we have envy, that means we want to be the center and we cannot accept somebody as the center. So this Radhanath Maharaj gave this example actually. When somebody else does some service, we don't compare. But when somebody in the same category does something, that's when we can realize that anartha. So it's something like that. When a peer, so that's why one thing is to avoid the antidote for envy or pride is to glorify the other devotees genuinely, even if we may not have that genuine feeling. At least do that activity and try to take pleasure in doing that. by glorifying the devotees who are doing that service, naturally our consciousness gets transformed to actually glorifying and seeing them happy. So that way it will remove that self-centeredness. Does that help, Prabhu? Like you can try this.
Yes, thank you.
I try this. I can say I fail it. I fail most of the times. So it's hard. That comes with the spiritual, purification, and that's where all the songs are there. Actually, we didn't have time to sing another song we wanted to sing. Probably some other time. There's songs like Gopinath song. That's a very nice prayer and meditation to pour out one's heart to the Lord and pray for purification like that. So I think with that we should stop here. What time is it? Yeah. We have 2 minutes. Any other comments or questions or reflections? 1 minute. 1 more minute. Yes, Prabhu.
Thank you so much, Prabhu, for bringing such a wonderful topic that is like as very well put by Mayapur Vihari Prabhu is there, but like it's very, or even Harivansh Prabhu, that very difficult to recognize. So it was a very illuminating realization that you said, and especially from the Shastra. So it deepened that okay, we should go a step ahead and then really fight and to remove these anarthas in our heart. So thank you for very, very much for this wonderful class.
Thank you for coming, Prabhu. Yes. Okay, please go ahead.
Yeah, Hare Krishna Prabhuji, the slok reference is from Hari Bhakti Subodhay, and it's just found it in pocket with the app. It's 3:11. I never read it myself, that book, but...
Sorry, I didn't hear the last line. Hari Bhakti Sudhaya, and then what did he say?
3:11.
3:11, okay.
That missing word is Shastram actually. Jati Shastram Japa Tapaha. And I made one more mistake. Aparanasya Eva Devasya, not Iha Dehasya. Eva Dehasya.
Where is it quoted?
Pardon, sir?
I mean, has Srila Prabhupada quoted it somewhere from Hari Bhakti Sudhaya?
It's from Purport, yeah. From Purport.
Purport of which verse?
Many of them is there. It's... I'll tell you.
Okay, I'll take notes later. Thank you, Prabhu. And I think we are out of time. So now we'll have a Guru Puja for Srila Prabhupada, the founder Acharya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, by whose grace we are all assembled here today. So, and then we'll have Prasadam. And thank you again for coming. Hare Krishna.